to be coming next on Scene, everybody. I am so excited to be back here with the amazing Henry Weinreich. Today, we are talking about top 6 writing challenges and how to overcome them. Hi, Henry. How are you today? Welcome back to the podcast.
Jackie, the energy is already like blasting through this podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you about the top tips on how to actually overcome writing challenges.
I love it.
Well,
okay, so obviously now that we know how to shut off distractions.
Yes.
Like, how do you get out of writer's block, right? So what are the best ways to overcome writer's block? That's tip number 2.
It's so interesting, Jackie, because when you actually do research, believe it or not, the Association of Psychologists of America have actually stated, and they believe this, that there's no such syndrome, if you like, as writer's block. There's a guy who's a psychologist, Steven Pritzker, who actually said it's actually a matter of discipline. Okay, well, Steven, you sit down and write for 3.5 years a memoir or any fictitious or science fiction or whatever book. I mean, do you ever have writer's block, creativity block?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I like creativity block. That's a good one. That's a good one to say.
And that's what it is. I mean, because you're constantly switched on. And when the pressure's on, especially with what you do, marketing, helping people with their brand, sometimes it's like, okay, this is a no-brainer, but my brain's switched off. And so I'm sorry, Association of American Psychologists, I don't agree with that at all. But right to disagree. So for me, anyway, the way I would describe it is there's this cloud that comes from the distance and it comes for you and then it enters your head. And that's the writer's block. And so basically you feel really fuzzy. You don't know why, but you just feel really, really fuzzy. The beautiful thing, Jackie, about writing is its experience. So in the beginning, I was just like, this is what happens, panic. I'm never going to be writing again. All that stuff was just a miracle that came from somewhere. Guilt, pressure on the deadlines, and that's the syndrome. I mean, when you have that writing block, do you think that you're as well that it's never going to happen again for you? That kind of
it's the fuzz. The explanation of the fuzz could not be more accurate. You can't function. You're just like, I need to go step outside and have a breath of fresh air.
You can't function, and the problem is you think you're never going to function again. That's the issue.
Right.
So the next thing I would advise anyone is you've really got to then key into what are you writing for? What are you projects for? What is this all about? And so if you lose the guilt for a moment, and if you lose the pressure, which is not easy, you've actually got to go to a higher ground, because it's such a spiritual and, soul-searching experience, writing. And what I discovered is you've got to remind yourself, what is the higher life purpose of this? What is this all about? For you, I would imagine you've got goals with running your business. You've got set expectations, and so therefore that's part of also your life your life purpose is going for those goals, but other things in your life that are even more important than that. So for me, it was like, look, I represent my family, for all those that are not with us, for stories about World War II, and there's the hope that my father gave me with regard to humanity. So come on, let's get rid of writer's block. So I tell you, everybody's got a creativity sweet spot. For me, and I love it, before the sun rises, so it's like Dracula, right? Before the sun rises, I dream about all the things that I've just been blocked with writer's block. And Jackie, I get up at 4:30, 4:45. This morning, I did the same thing. We've got an early morning interview with you, and I'm switched on. And that's my sweet spot. That's when you start writing. I've done all my writing by getting onto my phone, voice to text, God bless Google Docs. And then all of a sudden you're going, oh, thank goodness. That was just writer's block. But, it comes back. It comes back, and every time you doubt yourself. But
when you think about it and you obsess over it, then it doesn't, right? It's like you have to kind of let it flow when it's ready to come back.
Correct. That's such a good point. And the thing is, know know already, writer's block actually is a build-up. You feel guilty, and then you feel that you're not, all these self-doubt stuff. And actually that stokes the fire. I mean, I'm sure for you, you have pressures on your projects, right? And sometimes you think, is it going to be good enough? Am I going to be creative enough? So I think by speaking about this and broadening this topic to all professions, just hone in on your sweet spot of creativity. By the way, what is your sweet spot? When do you have one?
Oh, so like time of day for me? I would say morning for me too. Morning. Not as early as like 4:35. I give you a lot of credit for that. But for me, I would say by like 7, probably by 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
And then it's going. Yeah. So it's not, I think the thing is, coming out of the writer's block closet, so to speak, it helps, knowing you have that, knowing everybody has it. So that's my advice. Know your sweet spot, know it's going to come back from time to time, and understand that actually that's the embers that stoke the fires for the next creativity burst.
I love it. So how can people follow you on social media, Henry, and get in touch?
Right. So I've just launched my new website, which is henryweinreich.org, which is a landing page and it's just like my business card. You can also go on to our Instagram account and DM me on the stories I told my son, and my very active Twitter, Henry Weinreich _. And finally, my LinkedIn, Henry Weinreich. It's really easy. Just hashtag Henry Weinreich. You're going to find me.
I love it. This has been a pleasure as always. Thank you for the inspiring information. You are the best. So everybody definitely follow Henry. And thanks for tuning in to Next on Scene, and stay tuned for who's next on Scene.